Hey, check it out. We're live. Welcome back again to the show with no name, featuring me, Herms. You can find me on Twitter at HermsNFL. I do stuff here. I do stuff a lot of different places, but there's another person that hosts the show as well. His name is well, I try and do this all the time, but honestly, Jesse, you should just introduce yourself.
Hey, so I'm Jesse at BGF Sports on Twitter. I do stuff here and I do stuff on my own. It's super fun. We have a super time here on the show with no name, and we have a special guest. What's up, special guest? Introduce yourself as well.
What is up, guys? Thanks for having me on. This is fun. Nice Sunday show. So I appreciate it. I'm Jay at Jay Arsht. You can find me at 14 personnel at 14p_pod every Thursday at 6:30 for me, so 9:30 Eastern time. Doing the Dynasty double wing with Ben C over there, which has been a blast. Been doing that for about the past couple months, and we talk about Dynasty, fantasy. We've also been covering a lot of like the draft and prospects and kind of scouting perspective of things, having on some smart people to talk about that. So yeah, that's what I'm up to, and appreciate you guys having me on.
Dude, of course. And anytime I can get some crossover love with the 14P fam, because I also have my own YouTube show with 14 personnel in Herms terms, if you want to check that out. I don't like to promote my, work with other places while, hosting a show with the Lateral, but at the same time, we got the cross-pollination going. So I got to say it, boom, there it is. That's the thing that you can find me do when you're not finding me here. Haha. So, yeah. Dude, I'm really looking forward to getting into our topic today because last week we covered a lot of entirely too early redraft ADP data, and we're using that information up against what we've been seeing in the NFFC ADP data, courtesy of RotoWire. And we're just comparing those two data sets against one another, so that way we can really start putting ourselves in the mindset of player valuation and all that stuff, because we're still a little far away from actual draft season. Hell, the NFL draft hasn't even happened yet, but it's never too soon to start getting those, gears grinding. I almost said grind gearing, but hey, look at me. I got my words correct today. So, I don't know. I mean, did any major NFL news happen since we last talked? I mean, did we talk about the Sam Darnold going to Carolina thing?
Ooh, I don't think we did. I don't think so, right?
Okay, so before we hop in, obviously got to keep it topical somewhat. So, yeah, Sam Darnold no longer a New York Jet. He will be competing, presumably, if he's still going to be on the roster, with Teddy Bridgewater. I've got some thoughts, but I'd like to kick it down to Jay first. If you've got any thoughts on Sam Darnold being anywhere finally away from New York.
Yeah, no, I actually liked it. I like it for Carolina a lot, which I might be in the minority of thinking that. But you're sitting at 8. I think it also in the NFL draft. I think it also says a lot about really how many quarterbacks are going to go potentially before 8, which is probably going to be 4, maybe even a 5th if somebody else trades up. So I think Carolina, gets at least a guy who maybe their guys were high on or who they like, and Sam Darnold, who's still 23 years old or 24 years old. They have good offensive weapons already. So I think you're either putting in one of those rookies who's maybe your 5th option in the draft. Like maybe you're sitting there being like, we might get, our 4th or 5th guy on the board, or we could get Sam Darnold, who at least has some NFL experience, is only a couple years older than these guys. So I like the move for Carolina. Fantasy wise, it makes Darnold relevant again. I think he was kind of teetering on this offseason, seeing if he would even be a guy anymore next year. So I think at least him going to Carolina does make him a little bit more fantasy relevant. And I don't think it's what everybody's DJ Moore managers were hoping for when they were wishing for, a new quarterback this offseason. But I think it could be more positive than negative for kind of everybody around. For the Jets, clearly they're picking a quarterback at 2. So we'll see. I guess it's Zach Wilson is whatever report's saying. I'm still not positive on that. I mean, I think it should be Justin Fields, but I think it clearly, shows the direction that they're going, and they want to start out fresh. And we'll see how that is for them. I don't know that an upgrade really. I don't know that Zach Wilson is actually, this might be a hot take, I don't know that he's going to be that much of an upgrade from Sam Darnold if they get him and put him in that same situation. So we'll see. Those are my thoughts on it, I guess.
Ooh, Jesse, what you got?
Yeah, I think the Jets got pretty close to fair value for trading away Darnold. They obviously were moving on. I think, starting over the rebuild now makes more sense than, having to sign Darnold if he's even good going forward. So I think it makes sense for them. Good, they got some value. For whatever reason, for as much as NFL team scouts or whatever value this year's draft picks, they don't seem to value like the next few years draft picks as much. So it doesn't feel like they gave up too much, or at least the second round in 2022 and then the fourth round in 2022. I feel like that's pretty good value, honestly. But I guess I don't know if NFL teams really value that as much as they should. But anyway, and they got a 6 this year, so I think it's pretty okay value. I think Zach Wilson's actually really good, but we'll obviously see. I think the Jet situation is actually getting a lot better too, but I don't know if it'll be better. I don't know how much this year. I really like Becton. I like the wide receivers, Mims and Corey Davis a lot.
Mims, the lateral chips, Denzel Mims.
Yeah, yes, yeah. We'll see though. It's definitely not perfect. It's definitely not great. They're gonna have a good defensive line the next year, so that'll be exciting. But yeah, and then for Carolina, I assume he's gonna start. I have to assume that's gonna happen. But what's the dead cap for Bridgewater is like $20 million though, so they can't really get rid of him this year by like cutting him. I guess they could trade him, but I'm not sure what his value is. It's probably worse than Darnold's. But I trust Matt Rule a lot. I think he can do some really good stuff with a lot of really good players, and he's done it in the past. I think he's doing it now. I think Carolina's gonna be great and like they're gonna be good this year, like 8-8, and then they'll be good for the next like 5 years. I'm really convinced that's gonna happen. So whatever they're doing, I believe in it. I'll just say that. Kind of like a Belichick thing. I'm trusting him, trusting Rule. But I mean, obviously he's not as good as Belichick, but still.
I feel you, man. And gosh, anytime you can finally escape because they had already fired Voldemort from being the head coach of the New York Jets.
It's a good name for him, dude.
Oh yes, yeah. I refuse to speak his name, but man, going into that type of creative offense with Matt Rule and Joe Brady, that's going to be really interesting for Darnold. And in his time with the Jets, prior to this player leaving, like there was a little bit of a connection that Darnold had with Robbie Anderson. So being able to reunite there, I think, is going to be pretty intriguing. I think, I don't know, like Robbie Anderson was already very, very good last year. He was an incredibly good. The return on investment that you got, whew, man. But now he's going to be working with a guy that he already knows and like has a rapport with from the past. So I don't know. That's my like redraft takeaway, I guess, is like, yay, Robbie Anderson again. But yeah, for Darnold, like, I don't know, man. I like him. I've always kind of felt like, he's only a year older than someone like a Justin Fields or whatever. And like, I know that's a very, very tired narrative. It's like, he's still young. Who knows? Like, but I had to say it because no matter how lame it is, I believe it. So whatever. I don't care. I will just admit that I'm just like, completely just like, I want Sam Darnold to be a thing. Maybe it's just going to be one of those things where he turns into a fetch player for me and I end up just trying to make it happen and it won't. But hey, I'm here for it. I'm glad that he's finally in a better situation. Like, that's super cool, and I'm very happy for him. So that is that. And if we don't have anything else to talk about, then what do you say we get into some of this ADP data?
Let's do it.
Yes. Oh, so we got through 3 rounds last week. So we're going to kind of start around like the 4th round range and like looking at it. And again, we're looking at the redraft data from Fantasy Football Calculator over the last week. And then also the NFFC data from RotoWire. Just wanted to reiterate that. So if for any reason you're listening to this or watching this and you want to follow along, pull it up on your phone, pull it up on your computer, whatever, that's what we're taking a look at. So looking at it on Fantasy Football Calculator, we got some interesting names to start it out. We got Mike Evans, Julio Jones, Chris Carson, Terry McLaurin, Kyler Murray, Amari Cooper, Kareem Hunt. That's a pretty snazzy bunch, I gotta say. And the overlap with the NFFC data, a lot of the same names appear. There's a bit of a difference between where the Fantasy Football Calculator data has Julio Jones and where the NFFC data has Julio Jones. Julio Jones is really sliding. I kind of get why, but we can talk about that if we'd like. But I don't know. Anybody in that range there, kind of like the, top half of the fourth round that kind of jumps out to either of you?
I can go first, I guess. I think this looks like a good tier for wide receivers to take for some value wide receivers like Terry. Big fan, and I like Evans too. He, I don't know if people forget, but he was hurt for like a majority of this year, or like at least had like a nagging injury. So that was like, I feel like him and Godwin, both of them really together, they kind of didn't get a fair shake out of it. And with how good Tom Brady was playing last year, I feel like it's only going to get better with them probably hopefully being fully healthy next year. So he kind of seems like someone I'd be interested in, and I think Terry's just criminally undervalued everywhere. I know it's like the quarterback situation is what it is, but he's an insane player, so he sticks out. And Julio, he's been in the league for a while because he came in, he was like 22 years old. He's only 32, and I still feel like there's a lot left to go in there still. And when he's healthy, he's been fine. So I like the wide receiver values a lot here.
Jay?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say the same. I mean, the wide receivers are good here. I was gonna initially looking at Chris Godwin. I mean, it's interesting to see with him too, where he was being drafted last year and where people valued him just last season, and then I mean, like Jesse said, he didn't really get like a fair shake of it this season. He wasn't healthy the whole year. He didn't look bad when he was playing either, but it was Antonio Brown was there too. They were kind of running this whole thing. Who knows if Antonio Brown's going to be back next year? He hasn't signed anywhere yet. So if it's just Chris Godwin and Mike Evans there with Tom Brady again, who, looks like they were going kind of balls to the wall last year. So I think that's kind of what they're going to be going into 21 with. So if Antonio Brown doesn't come back, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans are going to be huge values here. Amari Cooper is interesting to me. I'm like always criminally low on him, but this is a good time to take him, I would say. And Terry McLaurin too. I mean, you're taking McLaurin at like his floor here, I feel like, for next year now that Fitzpatrick's there. And I think he's just going to feed him targets. So I think it's a really good range to take receivers. In terms of Julio, Adam Thielen, Thielen's also a guy that I always kind of miss on. I feel like I'm always too low on Thielen. And, he had a good season last season. Julio, man, just at this point in his career, I agree with you. He's not as old as he seems that he is. But it seems like every week you're monitoring Julio, And for me, that's just always so tough. Because I'm never sure if he's going to play. If he does play, yeah, he averages 17 points a game or whatever. So it's a great range for receivers for sure, though.
Jeez. And if you do draft Julio Jones in this range, and assuming he is your second receiver, that's probably where I would like him a little more, because I think the days of trusting him as your lead wide receiver one on your team are over. But, like has been said, I mean, the injuries have been piling up and that's how his career started out as well, for people who forget. I mean, that was a problem for him for a long time. I mean, it's possible the body's breaking down, but hey, man, I don't know. The Atlanta offense is always super fun. But gosh, I got to hype up my man Terry McLaurin, dude. This guy, I mean, oh my Lord, because the Washington football team, I mean, that's my NFC team of choice. I've alluded to it, plenty in the past on this fine network. Yeah, dude, I'm here for it, because Ryan Fitzpatrick historically just locks on to one dude, and I could easily see 130, 140 targets, and Terry McLaurin returning easy top 12 value, if not top 5 in the absolute best case scenario.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're going to be looking for guys that you think can dramatically outperform their ADP, this is the one dude where I'm just I'm going to try and have as many shares of Terry McLaurin in 2021 as I possibly can.
I really think McLaurin's the answer to that question too that everyone's been asking this offseason, and I tweeted it too and got a bunch of people responding to it because it's an interesting one. Is Chris Godwin took that huge step from wide receiver 27 to wide receiver 2. Calvin Ridley did it this past year where he jumped up from wide receiver 27, I believe exactly, up to a top 5 receiver. I think it was a funny thing because they were actually both wide receiver 27 before they jumped into the top 5. And then so this year, Ben and I, my co-host, we're actually looking at, well, who's going to be the guy this year that's going to do that? So let's look at who is wide receiver 27, from this past year in PPR. And it was Cole Beasley. So we were I don't know if Cole Beasley's going to make that top 5 jump. But another guy that was kind of in that range is McLaurin. And he fits that bill, where it's Chris Godwin, everyone kind of knew it was going to happen. It opened up for him in that offense. Bruce Arians actually told everyone it was going to happen. And Chris Godwin takes that step. And then last year it was Calvin Ridley, and everybody knew it. Everyone was like, Calvin Ridley is going to blow up this year, and he did. And then now this year it's like a little off of fantasy, but just narrative wise, Terry McLaurin's a captain of the Washington football team. He's a guy that, like, even at a young age, like, he's like one of the leaders on that team. They just brought in his college roommate, Curtis Samuel, like bringing Ryan Fitzpatrick to just feed him the ball. Like, it's like a perfect scenario for this guy. And like, yeah, I think he's going to get 150 plus targets and just like go off this year, which as an Eagles fan is going to pain me to some extent, but maybe he won't against Darius Slay. So we'll see.
True. Yeah.
Got any thoughts on McLaurin there, Jesse?
No, I mean, I would echo all that stuff. I mean, I love McLaurin. He's supremely talented. With Fitzpatrick as a quarterback, I feel pretty good. With Heineke, a little less, but still not bad. If they get a quarterback in the draft, I mean, I doubt it, but maybe if they take someone like Trask in the second round or something like that, that would get me hot and heavy. But yeah, I like McLaurin a lot. I think he's really good. And I think this is, again, just a really good value for wide receivers in the spot. Was the running back in here that I missed? Was it Carson? Yeah.
Carson and Kareem Hunt.
Oh, and Hunt. Yeah. Hunt might be a little high for me here. I might be a little high. I might be a little lower on him than this, but maybe it's fair. I mean, I love that offensive line. He's obviously really talented, but just the upside's capped, you know? I don't know if I want to deal with that in the 4th round or 3rd round. You know what I mean?
I don't blame you, you know, and there were plenty of times last year when he was able to perform really well in concert with Nick Chubb. But when we look at his stats at the end of the year, you know, some people might forget the fact that, you know, Nick Chubb did miss some time. And it was the Kareem Hunt show there for a while, and assuming health, for which is a bold thing to do for any running back. But if we just are going to assume health for Nick Chubb for some reason, and he does play a majority of the games, then like, yes, you are correct. You know, like I find Kareem Hunt to be a fine guy to be the flex on your team that you can plug in. Just based off of how I prefer to construct my rosters, I like to have those types of dudes that I can plug in as my RB3 or like my flex play in my lineup every week, because it's like, yeah, you understand that it's going to be a little volatile, but in the right matchup, there's a lot of safety there. And, you know, I of the 2 running backs that are in this range that we've highlighted, I much prefer Chris Carson. And I know they're, you know, I was just on the Dynasty Dorks talking about, you know, the rookie running back prospects and all that. And, you know, Seattle has been mentioned as a team that, you know, who knows what Rashad Penny is going to be all about at this point. I mean, it's been a little bit of a frustrating thing. And after him, like, sure, DJ Dallas is okay. You know, what's his name? Travis Homer. Like, if they could be a team that could take one of these dudes in like the 5th, 6th, 7th round of the NFL draft that like ordinarily, you know, maybe would have gone like a smidge higher, but just because, you know, as fantasy players, we always forget that there are things called linebackers and cornerbacks and safeties and kickers and other positions that exist that will make it so that, yes, of course, you know, all the fantasy relevant positions that we like, you know, they're not the only ones that exist. So, you know, maybe they could bring in somebody to take away from Carson a little bit, but I don't know. Either way, like, re-upping with Seattle was a big deal for me personally, because I was kind of nervous about what would happen to him if he went elsewhere other than potentially Pittsburgh, which makes me sad didn't happen. But, you know, I mean, we know who he is. And I like things staying the same when it comes to redraft because we already know what to expect. Any thoughts on those running backs there, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Carson is like, you know, typically the type of guy that's going to like go in this range that might be able to, like you said, outperform the more exciting guys that are going ahead of him. You know, we're all going to be enamored with like the new shiny, you know, 2nd-year running backs, like the 8 guys that came in that are now like, you know, top 20 guys. And Chris Carson's always going to have that ability. I do think it depends on really what they do in the draft. And like how early they pick the running back. That's kind of like, you know, always the interesting thing. If they pick a running back in like the 4th or 5th round and they just paid Chris Carson what they did, I'm not like that worried about him, especially knowing their MO. They want to be this run heavy team. They seem to really like Chris Carson. They just, you know, turned down the opportunity for him to walk away and brought him back. So if they spend like a 2nd round pick on one of these guys, like one of these, you know, good running backs drops a little bit, they spend like a 2nd round pick, then yeah, I don't feel so good about Chris Carson. Whereas I think Kareem Hunt right now, at least I feel like what his situation's going to be, what his workload's going to be. Even with Nick Chubb there, they're also a super run heavy team that's going to get both of those guys involved. So I don't know. Comparing the two, I think Carson's safer right now, but I think he's a little riskier. It's gonna be a little riskier these next couple months, seeing what happens. Or I guess next couple of weeks now with the draft so close. In the next couple of weeks to see who they add in the draft.
Yeah,
man.
I do have one thing to talk about real quick. So I was just looking up because I was thinking about this before, but like this might be kind of a little bit of a lazy comparison, but I'm not sure that they're like, at least in fantasy, I'm not sure if there's a huge difference between Kareem Hunt and like Philip Lindsay in fantasy currently, just looking at the stats and the way they're used over the past 2 years. And again, it's just something I thought about, so I brought it up real quick. I mean, last year in Cleveland, Kareem Hunt had like combined 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns. That's pretty damn good. He's obviously super talented. But the 2 years before Lindsay got hurt, I mean, he was rushing for 1,000 yards and catching about 200 each. It's pretty much the same amount of rushes, 192 in year one for Lindsay, 224 in the year before. And then Kareem Hunt had 198 last year. And like you said, that's with Chubb being hurt. So I don't know. I feel like if we're just going on value for stuff like this, take a wide receiver here and just take Philip Lindsay later. I feel like Lindsay has more upside because we don't know who's going to be the main running back there. And even if he is like, a number two, he's been that all his career. He's fine as that as long as he doesn't get hurt. He's a small guy. So I don't know if there's like a huge difference there. I mean, I have to dig into it a little bit more, but I feel like, the upside's capped here for Kareem Hunt, and like, why not just go for Lindsay later? They seem similar, at least fantasy wise.
I mean, I agree with Jesse in terms of what I feel like both brought up originally too, is that this is the time to be like slamming these wide receivers that are here. Like the Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, like those guys are more exciting to me and safer to me than Chris Carson or Kareem Hunt going into next year. But yeah, if you needed a running back here, I mean, yeah, obviously we talked about him, but like the wide receivers is the money spot here.
Oh, 100%. It's like, God, dude, there's always that little pocket of wide receivers that occur between like the fourth and the sixth round that, that's the spot that I really like to attack. And, I think like looking at this information already just further highlights that, like when you're doing your redraft drafts, like make sure you pay attention because like when the first 3 rounds are over and like a lot of like the super thrilling dudes are out of the way, you'll just find this really beautiful list of receivers that will continue in this next bunch of guys that we have pulled up. Adam Thielen, another name that briefly got mentioned. Chris Godwin, who we've already discussed. Then after him, just going in order, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, 2 Ravens back to back. And then CeeDee Lamb. That's a dude. Oh, my Lord. I got to say, though, I would be a little nervous if what we have heard about Jerry Jones's infatuation with Kyle Pitts comes to fruition and the Cowboys end up moving up. Maybe, let's just say for all intents and purposes, they're like, pulling up the phone and they're like, hey, Atlanta, it's me, Jerry. And they just, leapfrog all the way up to 4 and do that and try and build this like mega monster offense and kind of do like the Space Jam thing. Like, I mean, it would have to hurt somebody. So, I mean, I don't know. But that scenario aside, I absolutely adore CeeDee Lamb. And between Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, I have no idea if this is going to end up being a weird take or not. And we'll see how it ages. But I would prefer having CeeDee Lamb because at this point already, I think CeeDee Lamb is the better receiver because we have seen just like absolutely ridiculous play from him as a rookie. I mean, when he flashed, I mean, dude, it was awesome. And running out of the slot, I know that the numbers don't really bear out some of the narrative that goes with like, oh, well, the slot receiver doing all this work. And actually, our colleague, Justin at 14 Personnel published a really good article about that. If you want to check out some information about slot wide receivers. But yeah, I mean, dude, that type of guy running out of that spot, it's lethal. I absolutely adore CeeDee Lamb. If anybody has some thoughts about CeeDee Lamb.
You go first, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, I like CeeDee Lamb for next year. I don't know. I mean, definitely for Dynasty, he's a big get right now. Next year with him and Amari Cooper is going to be really tough. I do think that's going to be like an interesting debate kind of all off season because they are in this same range, obviously on the same team, both super talented. It's honestly a shame that, Michael Gallup like had 1,100 yards and like was, yeah, it was going to be so exciting, I feel like. And CeeDee Lamb just came in and now it's like just kind of dropped him down. I don't, talking about them going and getting Kyle Pitts is just like crazy. And I actually in one of my mock drafts I had that like a couple months ago, and I had it more as Kyle Pitts falling to 10, which isn't going to happen anymore. But I like can totally see it too, them like making this move for Kyle Pitts when they like don't need to do that. And like that's kind of what happened with CeeDee Lamb last year. They didn't move for him, but they also didn't need him. And everybody was like, there's no way they're gonna add CeeDee Lamb. They have Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup just had this big year, and then like they got CeeDee Lamb. So I think, Dak gonna be back is gonna be huge. We didn't get to see like a full year of CeeDee Lamb with him. In Lamb's like first 5 games, I believe he averaged around 17 points per game. With Dak, I mean, Dak was on like a historic pace, but so was CeeDee Lamb at that point for a rookie receiver. So yeah, I think it's, perfectly fair to be debating between which one to take, and kind of preference. I think they're both going to be, studs next year with Dak.
Yeah, I like Lamb. I think he landed a really great situation coming out of college. Obviously, he had a really good rookie season. It comes down to a lot. Like you said, the Pitts thing definitely comes down to they don't need a tight end. I think they have 2 good tight ends already, possibly receiving wise at least. Adding Pitts would just make that maybe one of the best offenses or the best offense in the NFL. I don't know. I got to watch some more Pitts tape, but I like him so far. But yeah, I mean, I think this comes down to like the curious case of Michael Gallup. He had 105 targets last year. Is that going to go down? Is he going to come back up? Is he going to be a good player next year? I think a lot of that depends on what he's doing. And I'm not sure where I'm at with him. This feels a little bit early for CeeDee Lamb, but it's a great situation. Great quarterback with high flying offense before Dak got hurt. So I get the upside. This kind of feels like he won't fall in this outcome. This is just like either he goes really high and he'll be a lot better than this, or he'll be, boom or bust. He'll be a lot lower. So I don't know what's going to happen with Gallup. It's super interesting because I don't know if those targets are going to come down right, or I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's kind of tough.
Is this one of those things where you're looking at it and you're just like, it feels like a trap. It feels like a trap. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Like,
it feels like I'm going to take the lowest ADP wide receiver out of these 3 probably, and just hope they're the best one, or hope they're the best bang for buck. It's kind of what I feel like I'm going to do in this offense, at least. So,
hey man, I don't blame you at all with that. And like, oh my gosh, like our homie Malcolm at McLateral FF. I mean, like this was a dude talking about Michael Gallup. We had so many conversations about Michael Gallup entering draft season and even throughout the year, it just being like this like weird kind of up and down thing with him. And it's just like, it's like, we know he's good, but it just won't work. And it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, geez. Cause like in a scenario in which they do not end up taking Kyle Pitts, and it's kind of just like a little more of the same from last year, which I think would be my preference in terms of my desire for continuity. I don't know. Like it happened enough times last year where he was like kind of usable. It was a little frustrating to figure out when it was going to be, but how much of that really had to do with Dak Prescott not being there. And his name's going to come up very soon, and I'm very much looking forward to discussing him. But I don't know, that Cowboys offense, I mean, as much as it pains me, the Washington football team supporter, and Jay, the Eagles supporter, to talk about how good the Dallas Cowboys offense is, it's like, well, credit where credit's due, because this is not bias time. This is just facts time. So, yeah, dude, I don't know. That whole lot of cool stuff there. I also just want to quickly highlight, this is decent value for tight end Mark Andrews. I mean, he is actually, I want to say, a little higher or maybe like around that range in the NFFC data. Actually, no. Wow. I'm having a hard time finding his name. Wow. He's way 66. Lower.
Yeah. 66.
Geez.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I like that a little more, but what's up, Jay?
Before we move off CD really quick, just like his beginning of last season, I mean, he had 2 games where he had over 100 receiving yards, a third one where he had like 80 yards. He was getting targeted pretty much like only 1 game under 7 targets. He was like on pace already in those first 5 games to have this massive rookie season, and with a full off season and Dak coming back, and yeah, man, I'm pretty excited about him. I've been kind of making the debate in Dynasty too about him, where I don't know that Justin Jefferson is on this completely different level than where CeeDee Lamb should be for people at all. Like, and I feel like that's where a lot of people are like kind of viewing it, where CeeDee Lamb's like kind of in this second tier. I don't know. I feel like they're kind of in that same boat, honestly.
Yeah, it's a great situation for sure. That's the best part about it personally. Yeah. He's a good player too. But yeah, situation's
we can move on from CD now.
I'm glad you mentioned that though, because I am on that train with you, man. Like CeeDee Lamb is absolutely.
And it pains me to say, us, Washington and Philadelphia fans here, it pains me to just paint this picture for them, but he's pretty special.
Sometimes it do be facts, and you just got to acknowledge them. But But yeah, that difference between the FF calculator data on Mark Andrews and the NFFC data, like there's a pretty wide range there or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I've been doing some tight end research just here casually there, and I've been tweeting it out if you want to check it out again at Herms NFL. Yeah, I mean, once you get past, I created this table about like a preseason ADP and where they ended up finishing or whatever, just like by slot by slot, like tight end ones. This is how it usually ends up panning out. The tight end 2 overall, blah, tight end 3. Once you get past the guys that are ranked in the top 3 or 4, the hit rate is just it falls off a cliff. And Mark Andrews is probably once again going to be one of those dudes, but I could see a scenario in which where, maybe it doesn't quite pop off because it took a while for, because Lamar Jackson struggled very early on last year, and that's what made it difficult for trusting Mark Andrews. So are we going to see more of what happened at the end of the year, or are we going to see more frustrating, bullshit like we did at the beginning of the year? I don't know. It could be a little risky, but I think that's why the wide range of outcomes is there. Yeah, and just getting down to this next group of players, we have Niners running back Raheem Morris, my boy Bobby Trees, Robert Woods up in the building. Pew, pew, pew. Then we have the quarterback of the Houston Texans, Kenny Golladay, Myles Gaskin, Dak Prescott, there he is, and then one of my homies, one of my boys. Oh, because I'm from the DC area, but my parents are from the Pittsburgh area, so I was born into Steelers fandom primarily. Deontay Johnson. Everybody likes to make fun of the stone hands, but I got some thoughts on that I will save. But any thoughts on some of these players in this range?
So I think now's a good time to talk about the quarterbacks. I do want to go back a little bit. I want to talk about Murray, Jackson. I mentioned Watson and Prescott here. I think this is a fine point to talk about that. I think the only quarterback I want to reach up and take in the first 6 rounds is someone who has legs that can actually be useful on the ground. So I'm kind of out on Prescott Watson at this range because I'd rather just fill it with tons of players that we have here, like Woods, Golladay, Gaskin, Mostert, maybe. So I just want to say I love Kyler and I love Lamar here. I would take them up here, be the only quarterback take here, but I feel like taking quarterback at this point is just too early for me. There's still really talented guys there, and you can just fill it in later with a Tannehill or a Cousins, and then be fine for your fantasy team. I think personally, and I right now, this is definitely a hot take or whatever, but I have Lamar as my number 1 quarterback in redraft because he has the legs to actually do that. I see Jay's got it too. Fuck yeah, or at least support that.
Yeah, man, I love Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, he's the only one that can really do that because the legs provide such first off, a low floor, and then also the ability to actually be the number 1 quarterback and be worth that amount of draft capital. So I wanted to bring that stuff up because I also love Kyler. Wasn't a huge fan coming out of college, but now he's got a great team around him. He has the legs to do it. He doesn't get hurt when he runs the ball. He always slides. He's got that baseball slide. And those 2 guys are just great for that. Really big fan. And I know people talk about Josh Allen and that stuff too, but Josh Allen runs very different than those guys. He runs like a tank. He gets hit a lot. I worry that he might get injured from that. And he also stopped running a little bit more towards the end of the season. So I wonder if he's getting kind of away from that. So I think he doesn't exactly fall in that range that I'd be interested in taking on. But that's why I take on the quarterbacks in this area. I think Dak might be the one guy because that offense legitimately might be 5,000 every season if they keep these wide receivers together. But it is what it is.
Yeah. I have a couple things on that because I first off I loved the Kyler slide comment because it is so funny. Like he's just like when Kyler slides, he just like drops. Like he like avoids getting hit so easily with that baseball slide. Lamar Jackson, man, I love Lamar Jackson. I've been kind of preaching for a little while too. I'm just a big fan of his, but also that I hate the narrative that like if they don't get a wide receiver, like if they can get a wide receiver, I think it could make like all the difference for Lamar Jackson, which is why I was so bummed when they struck out in free agency time and time again on everybody. And I don't really believe the narrative that like people didn't want to play with Lamar Jackson there, like the passing volume. I don't really believe that. I think guys just found situations elsewhere. I am interested to see what they're going to do with their pick though, and really like who can fall there. There can be some good players still in like, wherever they're picking in like the 20s in the NFL draft. Especially at the receiver position where like typically there's always, those players that fall for like Herm said earlier, there are other positions in the NFL and, teams like to take other positions sometimes. So Baltimore might be able to get, a really good receiver in the first round or second round of the draft that I think could make a huge difference for Lamar Jackson. I don't know why he gets put on this like island, I guess, where people think that it's not going to like benefit him to have a wide receiver. Kyler just got DeAndre Hopkins, and look what it did for Kyler. Josh Allen just got. I'm not saying that like he's going to be Josh Allen or this and that, but every one of them that gets a good wide receiver, it like helps significantly. So I don't know why Lamar Jackson's judged differently with that. Him and Mark Andrews' connection's so fun. It's like backyard football. So yeah, I think that's just going to like keep getting better and better. Lamar in this range for me, like you said, I mean, I think he has like, sky high upside. It's tough though with taking some of these quarterbacks. Like I got a little bit with that last year. I was pretty in on getting Lamar again last year after he won me some championships the year before with like his, historic season. And it's tough, man, because there are always quarterbacks that go later where like, I mean, Justin Herbert's down here like a little further who could have a huge season again. Even Russell Wilson, is like lower here where like he could have a monster season again. Dak Prescott, like, could be like setting records depending on like what they do with that offense. But I don't mind taking the quarterbacks here. Like if you're gonna pull the trigger on like a Kyler or Lamar Jackson, I mean, the running ability just like brings it to a new level, and it's kind of like a cheat code in fantasy when they start hitting. So. Yeah, I don't mind the quarterbacks here, but keeping note that like the Herberts and Wilsons and those guys a little later on are also interesting.
100%. And when you have an RB2 that also happens to throw the ball, it's pretty nice to have that, because like you get a little bit of like two players in one, and like that's what Lamar presents. So like it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back-to-back years, 1,000 yards rushing. Like I don't know what else people were expecting out of this. It's a pretty great situation. They added Zeitler in the offseason. I love him as a guard. Yeah.
I don't know why people don't just like appreciate Lamar Jackson more, just like in like the like beautiful thing that like we have in Lamar Jackson. Like I saw this video the other day of him and Jair Alexander at the draft when they both got drafted, and it was Jair reacting to Lamar getting drafted, and then Lamar watching it over later of Jair reacting to him getting drafted. And like, dude, he's just like the best guy. And like, he's so good for the NFL. He's so exciting. Like he like does things like we haven't really seen, in forever. And I feel like people are always trying to like find flaws in him instead of just like appreciating what he could be.
Yeah. So, I'm appreciative for sure. Yeah, I understand what you're saying because I love him. So yeah.
Yeah, man. I know. I'm preaching to the choir for you if you're also a fan of his. But like, I feel like on Twitter all the time, there's people just like trying to tear down Lamar Jackson.
Oh yeah. Hey, for our show that we have yet to announce, put them my way. I'd love to talk to some people about that stuff. So
yeah.
Oh yeah. And it's one of those things where like with Lamar, people trying to cut him down. Like I think we know why. But that's a different topic for another day entirely. But actually, one thing I did want to highlight because his name was mentioned, Justin Herbert in the sneak ahead, boom, fantasy football calculator data, he's at the number 62 spot-ish or whatever. But looking at the NFFC data, he comes in on average around pick 50. So, it is going to be interesting to see if his ADP ends up inflating to a point where he's not going to be one of those later round considerations, because I don't know, man, if he continues to stay in that range, I could be like, oh gosh. But historically, in terms of my personal roster construction, unless there is an insane value, I don't really think about quarterback until maybe around 7, round 8 at the earliest. But hey, dude, if something incredible falls to you in that, like round 6 range or something, then I'm like, okay, cool. But even in round 5, if somebody really dope is still around, maybe like a Lamar Jackson, maybe like a Dak Prescott, like, oh my gosh, dude, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have him either as my QB1 or QB2. Like, I'm here for the Dak love. But yeah, man, I don't know. Like, it's cool to wait, but at the same time, if you get those legs, I mean, oh boy, oh my gosh. And then as far as one of the names mentioned, the quarterback of the Houston Texans, I am not a legal scholar, nor do I have any commentary on the other shit. So listen to other people. I don't have the time of day to give it. So anything else?
Yeah, the quarterback stuff, because I know, like I'm just saying, I think this pulls from like best ball data, and I'm wondering how much of that is influenced by the quarterback stuff, because best ball, you probably take like 2 quarterbacks higher than you would normally, right? So I wonder if there's a little bit of that there, but I think it's good to just mention that in the way they fall. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yes. Right? Yeah. So I think there might be a little bit of that. Come time they maybe move back a little bit, but currently, yeah, where they are is, like you were saying, I normally don't look like you do as well for, drafting until we get to like round 8. But Lamar and Kyler, I might make an exception for that personally, just because of the legs. But yeah.
I dig it. Any other thoughts on the quarterbacks? Because there are a couple of receivers I just want to quickly highlight.
Yeah, I'm good. Talk about receivers.
Dude, okay. So Robert Woods, every single year, just incredibly good. Like, he's one of my dudes that, like, whenever I think about like my personal benchmark for figuring out how I feel about a receiver is just like how close it's the Robert Woods line. It's just like, how close are you to being as good as Robert Woods? If you are better than Robert Woods, then I absolutely adore you. If you are worse than Robert Woods, then it's just like, okay, well, I don't know. Then I'm starting to feel a little nervous about it. He is the benchmark for me as steady, reliable wide receiver. That is my guy. Like, he's the poster child for me when I think of good fantasy wide receiver. Boom, it's Robert Woods. Just like, it may not be the most sexy pick in the world, but like the last 3 years in a row, it always returns good value, because in that Rams offense, and they like to do the little end around stuff with him too. So, I mean, hey, dude, he's really good in open space, and just like, don't forget his name, because, he doesn't get talked about enough, but whenever he does come up, it's just like, oh yeah, I like Robert Woods. And it's like, yeah, because you should, because Robert Woods is very good at football. And the other thing, Deontay Johnson. I mean, as somebody who primarily roots for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I get the whole like, oh, but the drops, he's got stone hands. Okay, some of the drops, not great. Some of them that got counted against him, I legitimately believe are way more on Ben Roethlisberger than they are on Deontay, because some of those throws last year when Ben was having a bad day, oh, God. Oh. Just, I wanted nothing to do with it. Oh my Lord. Like, everybody likes to talk about, like, who do we really feel between Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Chase Claypool? It's going to be hard to figure out week to week which one you're going to like the most, but the safest bet of the 3 in any given week is going to be Deontay Johnson, because he gets the highest target volume. That's just how it works. That's what the Steelers offense does. They always pick the one dude that's just going to be like, okay, like, we'll have the big play dude, we'll have the guy running around in the slot, but then there's going to be that other guy that we're just going to pepper with all the work, and that guy is Deontay Johnson. So I don't know if there are any thoughts on the Pittsburgh wideouts, just because I know they kind of get discussed together. So I figured this would be a good opportunity to just talk about that. Any thoughts on Deontay or the other 2 aforementioned Steelers wide receivers?
All right. I mean, I think all 3 of they're all, they're all fantasy relevant, and they all have, value to a certain extent. I think their ceilings are all, ultimately capped by each other. I think, Deontay Johnson, like that kind of narrative I was talking about earlier about who's going to make that jump to be like the top 5 receiver next year. Deontay Johnson was a lot of people's answers on that, just because, he gets the targets and like a pass heavy offense like that. And Juju was supposed to be gone. Well, Juju's not gone, and now there's going to be 3 of them still there. And I don't know, man. I don't love Deontay as much as everybody else does in terms of his upside. I think this is a good range to take him. But I honestly, I like some of the wide receivers that are coming up in the next like 10 to 12 picks more than I like Deontay and more than I like Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp right now. I think there's some guys with like some higher upside that are a little bit lower. So as we were kind of talking about like the quarterbacks or even like the tight ends in this range, like a Mark Andrews or like a TJ Hawkinson here, instead of, you know, a Deontay Johnson or Robert Woods, and then getting some of these receivers that are a little lower that I think have like just as high, if not higher upside, would kind of be the way that I would go. I agree with you. Robert Woods is like the staple of consistency. And I love like the, you know, the rushing upside with him too, that he gets like, you know, extra points like that. But I like some of these wide receivers further down. So I think I would probably be going for trying to get one of these last
I dig the vibe. I would like to bookmark TJ Hawkinson though. Just want to throw a little bookmark in there because that's going to be a name that's going to be fun to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think with Woods, I think he might be playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with in his career currently. I want to say with Stafford. Yeah, I think so. I'm just going through like the Bill stuff, and I think he must be. So I'm excited for him. He's 29 now, so he's getting a little bit older, sure. But like you said, he's consistent, which I really like doing, especially on these early rounds. I want to make sure I don't fuck up these picks. So when I get to like 5, 6, and 7, I can go for higher upside guys. So I like Woods here. He's a pretty good option for me, I think. He's been I think pretty underrated generally. But regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receivers, I think I'm Team Juju for the best one here. At least wide receiver value. I think I'm Team Juju. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure where I'm at because, yeah, I just don't know. He definitely catches the most balls, and I like that. It seems like he's getting the most targets. He had like 134 compared to like 101, 100, I don't know, like 7 for the other guys. So I like that a lot. I think you're right about Deontay too, Herms, with him being the drops being a little bit attributed to him falsely. I kind of agree with that. Roethlisberger has definitely had a big decline in, I think, his play. I think he's still good for fantasy for sure, at least helping out the fantasy receivers also, but he definitely has declined for sure. And Deontay does have some drops. He's had that issue a little bit, but I think it's overblown as well. I believe that to be accurate too. So I like him. I mean, the Steelers don't seem like they can ever do wrong with producing wide receivers. Whatever they're doing, it's worked for like 10, 15 years. So I kind of trust what they're doing again there. I believe, you know, any of those guys are pretty good. Like I kind of said for Dallas, I'll probably take the one with like the lowest ADP and just see where it goes from there.
I feel you 100%, man. And, you know, our guest Jay is having a little bit of technical difficulty. So whenever he can, you know, hop back in and do that stuff, we will get the tail end of the take that he was giving, because I don't know if the audio cut out or whatever, but just for the people who will be listening to this in podcast form, like, oh, we realize it. Oh, we'll address it. But yeah, dude. Oh, man. Okay. Well, I guess I'm just going to try and keep this train rolling through a little bit. Ooh. One of my favorite people to talk about is coming up. Oh, dude. So FF calculator data. Actually, quick sidetrack. I'm just going to go ahead and see if there's any NFFC stuff that's kind of, you know, a little bit, you know, contrasting with what we've been looking at. Actually, they got a lot of T. Higgins love. He actually doesn't even appear on the fantasy football calculator data until way later, probably in a range that we might not even get to today. But T. Higgins, that's a name, dude. I mean, I love him to death, like 100%. I know you feel similarly, Jesse. I mean, like, and for the talk that's going around about, you know, like, hey, maybe they take Jamar Chase. It's like, I sincerely doubt that they're going to end up doing that. Like, if they don't invest in Penei Sewell, I will be stunned. Now, I mean, if Atlanta stays at 4 and they take Penei Sewell, then I think it would be it's a possibility that the Bengals could go there at 5. Yeah. But, man, dude, T. Higgins. Oh, I love him.
Yeah. So I like T. Higgins too. So I'm just looking at the NFFC data here. I wonder if it's a little bit too early. Maybe I'm not excited about rookies as everyone else is, or past rookies or whatever. Like I see Thielen, Galladay, Moore going after him, and Kupp going after him, and I feel way more comfortable taking those guys than Higgins. Don't get me wrong though. I love Higgins. He's in a great scenario too with a great quarterback. They were very good last year together. Burrow comes back healthy. I think even if Penny goes, I hope they'll take like a guy like Slater next. But you know, obviously we'll see when the draft comes down to, you know, what it is. But Higgins, I love, man. I really do. I wonder if this is a little bit too early considering the other wide receivers that go after him. It's kind of how I'm feeling right now. But don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think I'm going to have a problem with people taking him in this area. Like, I think the upside is definitely there, and he absolutely could be better than this, outperform for sure. But I'm just more comfortable, like I've been saying, a little bit with my draft strategy to go with guys who are a little bit safer in this place, so that I can get guys a little bit later. Although we are getting to that point where, you know, we're looking for guys with higher upside to this point. But I just feel like especially Galladay. Thielen's proven it. I don't know why we would be, be super down on Thielen more. He was great with another wide receiver there. He's been great with another wide receiver who's like at his caliber, at least for fantasy, for pretty much his entire career, right? And then I really like DJ Moore. I think the talent's there, but the quarterback situation, we talked about that a little bit. But those are guys that probably take over him. So, maybe just a little bit lower, just a little bit. But if people are taking him there, like, sure, no problem at all for me.
I dig the vibe. Jay, take yourself off mute and let's see if these new headphones work.
Yeah.
All right.
I hear you.
Are we working good?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. My AirPods were at 100% by the time we started, and I don't know if my AirPods are old or what, but they died on me. So I don't have to finish my take. I'll start off kind of where we're at right now. I also like, DJ Moore in this range. That was kind of who, I don't know where I cut off there, but what I was kind of alluding to with the Robert Woods and Deontay Johnson range and some of those guys. I would rather take maybe the Mark Andrews or TJ Hawkinson, get the end of like that potential elite tight end class there, or maybe, the Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson. And then because this next round of like DJ Chark, DJ Moore, Tyler Boyd for me, even Chase Claypool, like a little bit lower, Juju, who, we were just talking about all the Steelers guys. I like those guys a little bit more. So I think this is actually kind of a nice range for wide receivers in terms of guys with high upside. I'm a big DJ Chark fan. I think with Trevor Lawrence coming in, man, it's going to be cool for him. I think DJ Chark kind of like, is going to be slept on this year after what happened last year. He was very disappointing last year, and I had him pretty much everywhere. So
DJ
Chark,
he was disappointing too because he had Jake Luton and like Mike Lennon as a quarterback too. Like, and Gardner Minshew I don't even think was that good last year, especially compared to what he was the year before. So like you're absolutely right. I'm a Jaguars fan.
Okay.
I know that stuff. I love Chark too. He's great, and he was playing with such terrible quarterbacks last year. It's going to be a major improvement. I totally agree with that.
I think he's going to be a steal because because of this, and like it's not like it's rocket science. Trevor Lawrence is coming is something that everybody knows, but he's a guy that disappointed a lot of people last year, so people are going to be gun shy to go back to him. But I like him in this range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
You know what I think is interesting there, though, because like we're talking about Trevor Lawrence coming out of Clemson. The guys that he relied upon as, receivers when he was there, the aforementioned T. Higgins and also a Justin Ross. What do those two have in common? They're built kind of similarly to DJ Chark. So there it is. Boom. I mean, we're trying to prognosticate. It's going to be a little strange. And like keep in mind, because yes, Urban Meyer being the head coach, but yes, also Darrell Bevel there as the offensive coordinator, something I feel like needs to be talked about a little more because yes, Urban Meyer will probably have a heavy amount of influence as to what they do, but I don't think he would bring in a guy like Darrell Bevel just to, sit around and do nothing. So I don't know. I just want to throw out, that type of possibility or whatever. But yeah, in terms of projecting the offense, somebody like Chark could certainly be very valuable. And that can also be a thing in concert with the Laviska Shenault love that we all hope for and desire. I think.
I hope for that. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's there, but I'll hope for it for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Like both things are possible, I guess. And, a lot is made of like the Marvin Jones signing, but I think that's one of those things where it's like he had previously worked with Bevel in Detroit. Maybe there's just like a little connection there just to, like, hey, have somebody who already knows what's going on, like blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not sure what type of, impact he's going to have on the Jaguars offense, but I don't know. I think it was a very, very good point to raise here because not a lot of people are giving DJ Chark the respect that he probably deserves because, yes, the quarterback play last year, you don't want to ever experience that ever again. So, I don't care, honestly, who it would have been that they ended up with, whatever rookie quarterback, because assuming they didn't end up with the first overall pick, hypothetically, if they had picked second or third, whoever that person would have been was going to be an upgrade over what they had. So dude, I don't know. I'm here for that. I'm here for the Chark hype.
I have a take on this range right now that I was just realizing after looking at it. And man, I just really hope that if you're picking in or drafting in this, that you already picked your running backs by the time it's, this 6th, 7th round, comparing, the guys we're talking about at the receiver position, DJ Chark, DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, T. Higgins, to the guys surrounding them at the running backs is David Johnson, James Conner, AJ Dillon, Fournette, guys, I mean, we're talking about guys that have like potential high end wide receiver upside compared to like David Johnson or James Conner, who we don't even know where he's playing next year. AJ Dillon, I mean, is gonna if he gets time, is gonna be like, you know, giving a significant amount of that to Aaron Jones. I'm not gonna be like relying on him. And Leonard Fournette, who I actually love, we don't really know what's gonna happen with Fournette next year for fantasy. So I you know, I'm always a draft wide receiver or running backs early guy, but especially this next year, I think you're gonna have to, seeing, you know, how scary it gets in this like 6th, 7th round.
Yeah.
God.
Mhm.
This
I
is
also-
truly horrendous.
Yeah.
I mean, like, would you rather take GJ Chark or, you know, James Conner right now, or like DJ Moore or James Conner? Like, it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right too, and I think this might be a personal thing, and I'm not sure how far I am with that too. But I don't know how good the rookie running backs are going to be next year, even or this upcoming year as well too. This is definitely not as strong as the class as last year, so
Yeah,
there won't even be that much added through like the draft, you know. So
I feel like there definitely won't be as many you can just rely on from
Yeah.
before your draft. You know,
Mhm.
there's going to be like maybe 3 or 4 out of this draft class that are going to have like that sort of share in their offense
Mhm.
from day one, and the
Mhm.
other guys we're going to have to, you know, pick up on the waiver wire, I think, and hit on them.
Yeah, almost certainly. Because I mean, like, we it's already been brought up. We'll take a little dive into it. Yeah, like the rookie running backs. I mean, like, Najee Harris. Yeah, that's a dude. Yeah, we can probably count on him being impactful because where he's projected to be drafted in the actual NFL draft are positions, you know, in offensive systems where I believe he will thrive. So, like, that is one. Sure, I'm here for it. And then, like, Travis Etienne, like, you know, it depends on where he ends up because he's a real home run hitter. And, you know, he doesn't really run with a lot of meaningful intent sometimes because he tries to just home run his way through people instead of actually, you know, trying to like make moves and do all this stuff. So, yeah, he's going to be pretty landing spot dependent. And then the names going down, you know, after that, like, yes, Kenneth Gainwell, you know, like it's like it's a lot of the same shit because I really think it's like Najee Harris, we can rely on that. And after him, I have no fucking clue. So
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right in terms of just the volume of it. There's like, you know, almost double the amount last year where guys were like, where we were drafting them. And you can include even like Keyshawn Vaughn and some of the other guys that didn't work that were still being considered. And like, you know, these guys might break. Zach Moss. You know, I took a lot of Zach Moss a lot of places, and
same.
then and then like all the other running back, the rookie guys that hit last year. So I don't think there's going to be as many you can just rely on while you're drafting before the NFL season starts. So
I think I have a little bit of an unconventional view on the running backs. I feel like Harris might be good in the future, but I don't think he's close to being there currently. And I think the other guys are possibly a bit more complementary backs, or at least, you know, both of the guys at UNC were complementary backs to each other, right? So I'm curious to see how they fall, where they go. And I think, I was going to call him CJ Spiller, but Travis Etienne, because that is my comp for him. He's worse CJ Spiller, so I don't exactly love him. So he's another guy that I have feelings about. But anyway, that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, I think it goes to the point that these wide receivers, for the value where they're at compared to the wide receivers, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, so
yeah, it's like, that's honestly, as we were talking about it, and like one of you guys, I was just looking at it, and I'm like, you know, all these running, like I would not be drafting a running back here, and like there's all this meat at wide receiver that's still here. So especially this year, I think, I mean, like every year, you know, by the time it really trickles down to draft time, everyone's like, you know, grab running backs. Running backs are at the top. So it's nothing new, but I think especially looking at it this year, that's going to be the theme.
Yeah, hard agree.
It's going to be very tricky. And like we have from a comment in the audience, yeah, like Harris by far #1 running back in the draft. After that, who knows? So yeah, we're not going to get a lot of those dudes that are going to be, you know, sapping value out of anybody. Although I want to say very briefly, a running back whose name does appear in this range, Ronald Jones. Do not besmirch the name of Rojo. I stan Ronald Jones. I don't know if it's even rational at this point, but I just do. His like yards created on his own they've just dramatically improved over, you know, his time in the NFL. He's still very young. I don't know. I want to believe, but he's probably my fetch guy.
He deals with too much, man. Ronald Jones deals with like too much people. Just like he's just is what he is. I don't think he's anything like. And I'm not like, you know, tearing him down. I think he is still young. He still has a lot of potential. Sometimes he looks great, but like I don't get everyone's infatuation with like hating Ronald Jones. You know, it's like what do you expect him to be? He's not like, you know, the top guy, but he's fine. He's a good running back, I think. I don't understand why everybody hates him so much.
Yeah, Lenny is like kind of is what he is. He's just like a bruiser. He runs into stuff.
Yeah.
And Rojo is definitely more complex, has way better vision because I just see Lenny running into his own lineman over and over again. But when he breaks out, he's a good running back. But still, yeah.
Yeah, I had somebody on our show a couple weeks ago, Nick Faribaugh, who's talking about running backs with us in the draft, and he brought up the Bucks a lot as a team that he thinks could potentially draft a running back too, being that they don't like in the first couple rounds is what he was saying, because they don't really have any other glaring needs. And, you know, Rojo and Fournette's there with like a cheap deal, you know, doesn't hurt to add another running back. So
yeah, that's possible. You're right though that they definitely have like that many holes. Like their secondary is all really young and really good. They've got like some pretty good pass rushers.
They're gonna have to like find areas to look to draft in. They're you know, pretty stacked team.
Yeah. There's also Keyshawn Vaughn there too. But still, it does feel like it. And they also, the thing about wanting to get guys or get the running back on Tampa Bay is that they have one of the best lines in the NFL. Like if you want a running back behind that line, I feel like, you know, we talk about, you know, the position obviously isn't great because he's splitting or whatever, but feels like if one of those guys is the guy, you definitely want that guy.
Yeah, and Brady's really proven too, I think, with last year too, how we saw Fournette used at the end of the season also is, you know, people were bringing up a lot of James White going to the Bucks and like how cool that would be. And like, you know, he's got that pass catching skill set, but I think it's really whoever plays with Tom Brady is going to have to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield because he likes to dump off to those running backs. So regardless if Ronald Jones is a great pass catcher or Leonard Fournette is a great pass catcher, like they're going to get opportunities to catch the ball because Brady dumps it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Lenny, the thing is that Lenny definitely catches balls, which is crazy because I don't think he's that much of a better receiver than Jones, but yeah.
I don't know, man. I think Lenny's got a bad Lenny's got like a bad rep too. Like every other running back gets like, I feel like Lenny was in Jacksonville and Jacksonville was so terrible. And I feel like it wasn't Lenny's fault that like he didn't really have anywhere. They had that one year where they were good in 2017.
Yeah, you're right. The line though hasn't been as much of a problem as other stuff has been, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah. I think his vision sometimes is absolute dog shit. I will say that. But he is a strong dude. He knocks over dudes, runs over dudes. I'm sure Herms knows. You know, him in Pittsburgh. So that was some stuff with that Kamir thing. That was a fun little meme. Yeah.
Herms, what do you think Pittsburgh's going to do at running back?
Oh dear God! This is going to be a very complicated answer.
Like, why are they bringing back Connor? Is he too expensive?
It's one of those things where it's just like I feel like, God, like they love Connor. Connor loves them, but it's just like dude, we can't rely on you to stay healthy, and it's not his fault. You know what I mean? Like anybody who knows the story of James Conner loves James Conner. I mean, like hell, and plus, I mean, like shout out Erie, Pennsylvania. You know, that's where all my family's from. You know, that's where he's from. I got a soft place in my heart for James Conner. I absolutely adore him. I mean, like my cousins like went to high school with him and stuff. Like super, he seems like a really nice guy. But it's just like I don't know. They need somebody they can rely on. And also, quickly, a comment from the chat: is Keyshawn Vaughn that bad? I have no idea, but maybe. Yeah, and also, you know, the money is a little bit of an issue because I mean, like they don't have significant cap space until after this year in 2022, which thankfully, I mean, the cap should expand, so they will be in a very advantageous position to you know, address a lot of concerns because this team in general is going to be undergoing a massive makeover. But in terms of what I think they'll do, obviously offensive line is going to be a spot in the draft that I think they're going to need to address early. But if a good offensive lineman is not there, then I could easily see them take somebody like Najee Harris has been, you know, it's been projected the entire time, you know, and, you know, watching him, he screams Pittsburgh Steeler, but I was always just like, well, I don't know. We got other needs, but hey, like if there aren't better players there that can help us address those other spots, why not take a shot on him? Because currently with what's on the roster, I mean, like they love Benny Snell. He is what he is. We've seen enough of it. And, you know, people like to talk about Anthony McFarland. I mean, like a good football player, but the Steelers, like he's not the type of player that they will ever use as their primary back. So, you know, all the McFarland truthers, I mean, like he needs to go somewhere else for that to work because it's not going to happen in Pittsburgh. Other possibilities I could see somebody like they attended the North Carolina Pro Day and had a lot of good things to say from what I heard. So whether that means Javonte Williams probably won't be around by the time they pick next in the second round, a Michael Carter I could potentially see. Also, Ramondre Stevenson out of Oklahoma. I know he's not really inspiring. He's more of the LeGarrette Blount. But I mean, like, that's the type of dude that Pittsburgh loves. It's ground and pound, baby.
Mhm.
So, like, yeah, like,
Yeah,
I
great
think
defense makes sense.
yeah, like, I think that's just, it's what my boys do. So in terms of what they will do at the running back position, like, it's either going to be Najee, somebody not that inspiring out of the rookie class, or I don't know, Kalen Balaj. But yeah, I don't know. But hey, when it comes to the rookies and stuff, we're going to have a very, very interesting show that I believe it has been confirmed now. Peter Howard will be coming on to talk with us on Monday, May 3rd. Like, just right after all that stuff, locks up. So I'm going to be really excited to sit down and talk to Peter. That's going to be super dope. But yeah, I mean, we're over the hour mark at this point. I mean, if there's anything else we really want to talk about, like, I'm down to. I could talk all day about this shit. But like, we kind of abandoned going down the list of reading off the FF calculator stuff. But like, hey, that's why I said at the very beginning, like, if you're listening to this in podcast form later on, pull it up, follow along. You'll see what we're looking at. So even if I'm not saying this directly to you, the listener, you're smart. You have a computer, or you have a phone, an iPad or something, a tablet. Like, you can pull it up, you can put on your headphones, do whatever, follow along, look at the stuff. Because again, like, the purpose of these exercises is really like less about assigning like concrete opinions and more about just like, hey, a lot of stuff's happening in football right now. We got to get those gears grinding. We got to start thinking about this stuff and getting back into the mindset of player valuation. And for the second week in a row, I think we've done a really, really good job of this. And like, dude, these conversations are great. Oh, man, I love this to death.
Yeah, true. I'm not really sure I have anything else to add. I feel like we covered these people appropriately. I'm glad we didn't get to Herbert yet because I didn't want to yell at anyone. So I'm happy we're here there. In chat at least, or anywhere on the chat. I'm not sure how you feel about him, Jay, but yeah, I think I'm good. If you have anything final to say, Jay, about these guys.
I want to hear how you feel about Justin Herbert really quick.
I hate Justin Herbert. I think he's not that good. I don't think he's that good. He's like especially for fantasy here. Like, I think he's a better fantasy quarterback than real life one, but yeah, I'm just not a fan.
Okay. Yeah, man. I mean, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. This was fun. I typically this time of year, I'm looking at a lot of the Dynasty stuff and doing that. So this was kind of fun to like dial it back and look at more of the redraft ones and just thinking like that 1 year ahead. I like doing that. That's what I play in like most of, I play in some Dynasty leagues, but we all play a ton of redraft leagues too with all of our friends and everybody. So this was fun to do, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on. You can find me, every Thursday at 14 personnel, at 14p_pod, doing my show with Ben C. We're having a blast over there. So we'll be doing some more draft coverage and then get back to the fantasy stuff after that. But yeah, man, thanks for having me on. That's all I got.
Hell yeah, my dude. Jesse, let people know again where they can find you and some stuff that you're up to.
Yeah, I don't really mean to tie the Bacon Games Fantasy Sports to Herbert hate, but apparently that's where I'm going. But yeah, you can find me at BGF Sports on Twitter. I think I post some pretty fun stuff, some pretty cringe stuff, pretty fun to talk to, I think. And yeah, I do work for the Lateral. I love hanging out with everyone here. Love Herms. Everyone's had a great time. And I do my own stuff. But yeah, Bacon Games. So yeah.
Dude, definitely, because like I always say, Bacon Games Fantasy Sports, dude, sister network. Definitely check out all the stuff that comes out. Hey, I sat down and talked to Jesse about trading cards. That was an episode of a podcast that got published recently. That was a really fun talk. I was a little out of it that day, but I think I made sense.
It was good. I liked it.
Yeah, man, definitely a fun time. And, you will also be having a little upcoming YouTube thing that, we're still fleshing out the details, but I'm pretty excited about that. Maybe we won't announce that now, but, we'll, if you want to tease a little something about it, I'll give you the floor.
Justin Herbert will be discussed. That's all I'm going to say.
There you go. Boom. That's what we in the industry like to call a teaser. Ah, shit. Look at that. The execution was fucking flawless. Okay. You can find me on Twitter at HermsNFL. You can find the stuff that I do. Like I said, little cross-pollination. I have a YouTube show with 14 personnel in Herms terms. You can check that out on their YouTube channel. But for all intents and purposes, the Lateral is my baby. It is my baby. It's my boo thing. I love it to death. Oh my gosh, geez. Also, well, I do some stuff with the Rum Boys as well. Got to show love to the Rum Boys. Robbie's going to be coming on with McLateral in the next few weeks. That's going to be super fun. But yeah, dude, Lateral is where it's at. We got some YouTube stuff coming up. We got, a ton of really fun guests that we're going to be announcing soon that like, oh my God, dude, we're going to have some really, really cool shows coming up. And also we're going to be going live just like literally everybody else in the industry during the NFL draft, during that first round, because it intersects with our Thursday show, the Lateral weekly variety hour-ish. So, we're just going to have all 4 members of the Lateral on at the same time for the first time. It feels like the first time. And we're just going to, maybe I'll wear a tie. Maybe I won't. And we're just going to react to everything that's going on. I mean, like, hey, you'll have like a myriad of choices of people that you can, hop in with and do all that stuff with. But we hope that you choose us. I think it would be super neat. And I don't know, for Jay and for Jesse, I am Herms, and we will talk to you guys next week about something.